Hi everyone. Today we'll be teaching you how to convert images into text using Python. This will be a beginner tutorial, but you should have basic knowledge of things like for loops, variables, and understanding of lists, and other basic Python concepts. Everything else will be explained in this video. Without further ado, let's get started. So what we will be doing to make these images into text is converting each pixel into a letter which corresponds to its brightness. For example, a darker pixel corresponds to a darker letter, or one with more pixels, like a $sign. A lighter one would correspond to a lighter letter, or one with less pixels, like a comma. Now when we read an image using OpenCV, it comes in the format of a 2D array. This means that you have an array that stores an array which stores values. In this case, it's rows storing columns storing pixel brightness values. This might be a bit confusing, but it should make more sense when we get into the actual coding, so let's do that. First, we're going to need to take an image from our computer and convert it into a 2D array. We will do this using OpenCV, so if you're using PyCharm, you will need to go to File, Settings, and then under your project, go to Python Interpreter, and click the plus sign, then search up OpenCV. And eventually it should load OpenCV right here. And you're going to click on OpenCV, and I'm not connected to the internet right now, OpenCV, and then you're going to click Install Package. You're also going to search up SciPy, and you're also going to search up NumPy, and click Install on all of those. Once you've done that, you should be able to write down import cv2 as cv, import numpy as mp, and from scipy.interpolate, import interp1d. If it is throwing an error, search up a tutorial online on how to install OpenCV or NumPy or SciPy on your IDE. Everything else in this tutorial will be completely compatible on all IDEs and OSs, so don't click off if it gives you an error. It most likely can be fixed very easily. If you have any questions, put them in the comments below. If you made it through that step, you are past the hardest part. Now it's time for the fun part. What you're going to do now is type in image equals cv.imread, and then type in your file path, which will be, and your file path you can find it in the File Explorer, and if you right click on an image and then click copy as path, you'll be able to copy the path to that image, and then once you do that, you'll be able to paste it inside of here. If these are backslashes, you're going to want to make sure you're going to want to change all of the backslashes to slashes. To make sure this is working, you can now type in cv.imshell, and then your window name, which can be anything, and then image. And then you're going to go click enter. You're going to do cv.waitKey, and this will make sure that it waits and doesn't immediately close out your window. Now if you run the code, might take a little bit, but you will see your image pop up. But the thing is, this is in RGB, or in other words, it uses color, and it is much easier to do this if we have the brightness of each pixel. We can use OpenCV again to convert this to grayscale by typing in this line of code, cv.cvt color, and then go over here and do cv.color RGB to gray, and then end parenthesis. If you run this again, you'll see that it's now grayscale. We also don't want it to be too big of an image, so you should use cv.resize to alter the resolution. We also want the resolution aspect ratio as 64 by 30 because this works well. So I just use a multiplier variable to not change the aspect ratio but change the resolution instead. And I like setting this to 8 for a decent amount of resolution. Now that we have this, we can loop through each pixel and convert it to a letter. Now, we're going to be using 1D interpolation, which, to put it simply, is mapping a large range of values into a smaller range of values, kind of squishing it down. So we're going to use scipy.interpolate here. So m, or interp function, equals interp1d, and these pixel values are in the range 0 and 255, and we're going to be mapping them to the range 0 and then the length of ASCII array. Now this ASCII array you're going to get from the description, and it's an array of colors that worked out well, and that is organized by brightness. So once you have that copied in, you should make sure that this is the length of the ASCII array minus 1, because if we have a number, an index that is the length of the ASCII array, it will throw an index out of bounds error. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to assign index to interp function of n. This will map our pixel value to an index. And then we're going to create a new array, numpy array, with the values, with just a bunch of blank values. So we're going to call this letter array equals mp.full, then 64 times molt, and 30 times molt, and then comma, and we're just going to put in a random character here. Let's choose y. Once we have that, this will be the same size as the image. And then we can assign letter array, and then we're going to keep track of all of our pixels using num1 equals 0 and num2 equals 0. And we're going to increment num2 every time this loop cycles through. And we're going to increment num1 by 1 every time that loop goes through. And then this will keep track of our pixel values. Equals image, image index, there. And we're going to make sure that we round this using int, because this interp function will return decimals, and we do not want that. Next, we're going to go through this, and we're going to go I in letter array, and we are going to do dot join I, and once we do this, it should print out our array in pixel values. So I made a little mistake here. This should be our ASCII array and not the image. We can delete this imshow line. We don't need it anymore. And as you can see, we can now Control A, Control C, and then paste that into a notepad, and that will paste your art into the notepad. And I believe that I actually have flipped this around. It should be 64 by 30 here, and 30 by 64 here. but you can see the final result. And there we go. Now you can see that the image is formed. And you can zoom in and out on Microsoft Notepad, which I'm using right here, by just pinch clicking. You should also have your font as mono, which you can do by editing the font down here. And it should be a mono, so I prefer Consoles. It's a good mono font, and it's the default. Okay. So let's recap what we have so far. We have our ASCII array, which is a bunch of characters in order from darkest to lightest. We process our image right here in this line, and we convert it to grayscale and resize it using the fixed aspect ratio of 64:30, and we multiply it by a mult variable to make it to whatever resolution we want. We also have a letter array, which is an array that is the same size as the image and is full of Ys, which are just filler characters. This is where we're going to put all of our text and convert everything into ASCII. Then we loop through each pixel, and our insert function maps each of the pixel values from the range 0 to 255 to the range 0 to the length of the ASCII array minus 1. This makes it so that lighter pixels have lighter letters and darker pixels have darker letters. We then make the letter array equal the ASCII array at the position of the pixel. Then, after we've converted each and every pixel value into a letter, and then put that letter into the corresponding position in our letter array, we can then exit this loop, and then make a new loop, and print out each and every row of the letter array, and join it together to get rid of the brackets and commas that would happen if you just printed out each row. Then after that, we end up having an image in text, which we can then copy into Microsoft Notepad. If you guys enjoy these kinds of tutorials, like and subscribe. I'll create a follow-up to this video which uses your camera to take images that you can convert to ASCII art, and also release some more color palettes. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll have some more cool tutorials coming out soon.